We're going to, last week we started answering that question because of when we studied about when Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. And folks, when sin entered the world, that's why we have Christmas. The moment sin entered the world, we needed a perfect sacrifice. That would be Jesus. So then we studied chapters 2 and 3 last week. And then in chapter 4, because see, the sin nature of Adam and Eve had been passed on to their children. And so right away, one of them murdered the other one in chapter 4. And when I think about Adam and Eve and they see their sons with those sinful natures, their sons don't understand how wonderful it was before they disobeyed God and how wonderful their life was. They had only known life after sin. And wouldn't you feel horrible? I mean, I thought about how I would feel if I made an error that caused my children to suffer. But not only their children, but your children and my children and their children, because that sin nature was passed on. Well, I'm going to try really hard today in a short amount of time to get through chapters 6 through 9 of Genesis. I have trouble getting through them quickly if I've got 3 verses, but I'm going to work real hard on this because why Christmas? And I want us to look at what happened after sin entered into the world. And I'm going to skip verses, not because I want to. I'd love to read every one of them, but for time's sake, we're going to have to. So if you're following along, you can keep up. I'm not going that fast, but you'll need to keep up. Okay, the first verse in chapter 6, he starts describing a world that's gone wrong. The people began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women and took any they wanted as their wives, and the Lord said, my spirit, now this is what God said, my spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their lifespan will be no more than 120 years. That's where lifespans got shortened. Methuselah, I think, I didn't look it up, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think he was 696 years old when he died. I think Adam was 930, but they lived from 600 to 900 years. And but the Lord said, I'm going to shorten that lifespan. So, and that's what he did there in verse 3. Drop down to verse 5. So the Lord observed the extent of human wickedness on the earth. And he saw, listen to this, it's hard to believe. He saw that everything that they thought or imagined was consistently and totally evil. And verse 6, I think, is one of the saddest verses in the Bible. Makes my heart hurt for God. So the Lord was sorry he had ever made them and put them on the earth. It broke his heart. And the Lord said, I will wipe this human race I have created from the face of the earth, yes, and I will destroy every living thing, all the people, the large animals, the small animals that scurry along the ground, and even the birds of the sky. I am sorry I ever made them. Verse number 8 is one of the happiest verses here. But Noah found favor with the Lord. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. One man. You see how we get together and we fellowship every Sunday. We come together with other believers and we fellowship and talk about the Lord and hear about the Lord and read His Word. Noah didn't have any of that. There was not one other righteous person that he could get with. Not one. He did not have a friend that he could go and talk to and share his burden. Not one. He fellowshiped with the Lord. Everyone was evil except Noah. And Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And because Noah was faithful, God was not willing to destroy him with the rest of the earth. Just one man. If you read the faith chapter in Hebrews 11:7, you'll find that Enoch was his grandfather, was Noah's great-grandfather, Enoch was the man who was, and then he wasn't, because he walked with God. He's one of the ones that the Bible talks about that didn't die to leave this earth. He just was, and then he wasn't. And he was Noah's great-grandfather. Okay, verse number 9. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, and the only blameless person living on the earth at the time. And he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was the only blameless person, the only one on the whole earth that walked in fellowship with God. And he walked in close fellowship with God. Noah was a righteous and a godly man. In America today, we have thousands of people who have not bowed their knee to any other God besides Jehovah. We have thousands of people who serve the Lord faithfully and fellowship with him every day. Can you imagine what it would be like to be the only one? He was the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now God saw the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. When I read that, I thought, what do you think the Lord's thinking today? Right now, as he looks down at this earth. If he looked at it then and saw that the earth had become corrupt and was filled with violence. Verse number 12, God observed all this corruption in the world, for everyone on the earth was corrupt. So God said to Noah, I have decided to destroy all living creatures. Why? For they have filled the earth with violence. Yes, I will wipe them all out along with the earth. In Matthew 24, it talks about as it was in the day of Noah. It will be that same way when the Lord comes back. Everyone was going about their life and their business as if nothing was wrong. The Lord told Noah in verse 14, build a large boat. You know where Noah lives, don't you? In the desert. Build a large boat from cypress wood and waterproof it with tar inside and out, then construct decks and stalls throughout its interior. Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. A football field, folks, is 360 by 160. So the ark is 450 feet long, so it's 90 feet longer than a football field. It's 75 wide, and a football field's 160, so it's 85 feet narrower than a football field. But here's the deal. It's 45 feet tall. That is the equivalent of a 4-story building. So, huge. Have any of you been to see any of these? I think they have a couple that they reconstructed. We haven't got to go see any of them, but the people who have said they're really magnificent. But but it's huge, folks. And then verse 16 said, leave an 18-inch opening below the roof all the way around the boat. Ventilation. God doesn't miss anything, does he? Put the door. Now, in this ark that size, there is one door, and his name is Jesus. You know, I told you Jesus is on every page of the Old Testament. There's only safety in the Lord. And the door to that safety is Jesus Christ. No man will come to the Father except by me, Jesus said. So this is a wonderful picture of salvation when you're lost outside the ark, but you go through the door, Jesus Christ, into the ark, into place of safety. It's a wonderful picture of salvation. But put the door on the side and build 3 decks inside the boat, lower, middle, and upper. 17, verse 17, look, I am about to cover the earth with a flood that will destroy every living thing that breathes. Everything on earth will die. He said, I am about to. What does that mean to you? See, to me it means right away, not 120 years later, like it actually was. But when I read the dimensions of that ark, you know, you think, wow, he worked on it 120 years. You read that, and I'm surprised he could get it completed in 120 years. One man and his sons, and he was kind of building and witnessing and testifying all at the same time. Verse number 18 said, but I will confirm my covenant with you, Noah. So enter the boat, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring a pair of every kind of animal, a male and a female, into the boat with you to keep them alive during the flood. Pairs of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, every kind of small animal that scurries along the ground, listen to this, will come to you. Noah didn't have to go out and gather them up. The Lord caused those animals that were going to be saved on the ark, the Lord brought them to the ark. He said, they'll come to you, and you be sure and take on board enough food for your family and for all the animals. That in itself is an undertaking. They're all going to be on there a year. Is it a year and 10 days? It's pretty long, lengthy stay to take food for all the animals plus food for him and his family. But look at verse 22. So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. 2 Peter 2:5 says that Noah is a preacher of righteousness. While he built that boat in the desert, he preached righteousness. While he was working on it every day, he was telling people about God. He was telling them what God was going to do. Hey, you're all welcome. Come into the boat, come into the ark, and you'll be safe. It's open for all of you. All that room, it was huge. And he said he invited people constantly in. And he was a preacher of righteousness while he built a boat in the desert. Now, I can only imagine what kind of ridicule he went through and what kind of ridicule his boys went through and his family, because most of the people thought it was foolishness and that Noah was nuts. Building a boat in a desert. He's not like he's going to put it on a trailer and pull it to the Sea of Galilee. You know, it's just building a boat here. It was foolishness to them. And you know what the Bible says about the preaching of the gospel today? To some people, it's foolishness. Okay, chapter 7, verse 1. When everything was ready, the Lord said to Noah, go into the boat with all your family, for among all the people of the earth, I can see that you alone are righteous. Nobody's coming in, Noah. So you and your family go ahead and get in there. Verse number 4. 7 days from now, I will make the rains pour down from the earth, and it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights until I have wiped from the earth all the living things I have created. So Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Verse 6, Noah was 600 years old when the flood covered the earth. Down to verse 11. When Noah was 600 years old, on the 17th day of the second month, all the underground waters erupted from the earth, and the rain fell in mighty torrents from the sky. The rain continued to fall for how long? Exactly how long God said it would. 40 days and 40 nights. So, and I forgot to mention this to you earlier and how they might think he's not all there. It had never rained. Did you know that? They didn't know what rain was. God watered the earth by waters coming up out of the ground, not coming down. So he had to explain rain. God probably had to explain it to him. And he had to explain rain. Well, never rained before, but not only did it rain, water came up out of the ground as well. Verse 13, that very day Noah had gone into the boat with his wife and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. With them, in the boat were pairs of every kind of animal, domestic, wild, large, small, along with the birds of every kind. 2 by 2, they came into the boat, representing every living thing that breathes. A male and female of each kind entered just as God had commanded Noah. And he was to take 7 of the animals the clean animals that could be sacrificed. He was to take 7 of those and a pair of the others. And then the last part of verse 16 says, then the Lord closed the door behind them. Noah did not close the door to the ark. God did. And as water began to fall out of the sky and it began to rain, and people began to see maybe there's something to what old Noah was saying. And as water was flooding and they may have pounded on the door of that ark, let us in, Noah, let us in. But Noah could not have opened that door if he had wanted to. He couldn't have opened it if he had tried. He didn't close it. God did. Verse number 17, for 40 days the flood waters grew deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. All the waters rose higher and higher above the ground. The boat floated safely on the surface. Verse 19, finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on the earth, rising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on the earth died. Birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, all the people, everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth, people, livestock, small animals scurry along the ground, the birds of the sky, all were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat, and the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. Chapter number 8 is about the water receding and the ark coming to rest and the ground drying out. So I'm going to, it would be good for you to read all these verses that I'm skipping over and make sure you read chapter 8, which I'm not going to, but that's what's in it, is that flood begins to recede and the time that they spent in the ark waiting for the ground to dry out enough for them to get out. Chapter 9, verse number 8. Then God told Noah and his sons, I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all the... Okay, he's confirming his covenant with Noah and with all of his descendants. Are you a descendant of Noah? Yes, we all are. He said, well, we came from Adam and Eve. Yes, we did. And Noah came out of their lineage, but then everybody was killed. So just Noah left. So you are a descendant, and I am a descendant of Noah, as well as Adam. And with all the animals that were on the boat with you, the birds, livestock, all the wild animals, every living creature on earth. Yes, I am. See, he's not only confirming his covenant with Noah, but he's confirming it with his descendants as well. And he is also confirming it with the animals. It makes me smile at how important the animals are to God. Okay, so verse number 11. Yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will floodwaters kill all living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth. Verse 12. Then God said, I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all living creatures for all generations to come. So it's a covenant for us as well. You know, this is a first, God made his first covenant with Noah. He made his second one with Abraham. And every covenant God makes, he always has a sign for it. Like when he made the covenant with Abraham, it was circumcision. When he made the covenant of the New Testament, the sign for that is blood. But here's the sign for Noah and the covenant he made with him and his descendants and all the animals. Verse number 12, then God said, I'm giving you a sign of my covenant with you and with all living creatures for all generations to come. Are we a generation to come? Yes, we are. So it's for us. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is a sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth. When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember. God said, I will remember. He will remember my covenant with you and with all living creatures. Never again will the floodwaters destroy all life. When God said, when I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember the eternal covenant between God and every living creature on earth. Verse 17, then God said to Noah, yes, this rainbow is a sign of the covenant I am confirming with all the creatures on earth. The rainbow is not for any particular group. We need to take it back, folks. That rainbow belongs to us. And but it's not a man-made rainbow. It's that one in the clouds that counts. Nobody can take that away. And anytime, haven't you seen some beautiful ones? I'll tell you, one ends right over there by where we live pretty often. I tell Doyle, let's get in the car and drive right over there. It's right there. If there's a pot of gold there, we may as well go see. But aren't they beautiful? And as we look at that, we remember that God said, I won't do that again. But you know what? When God sees it, reminds him that he won't do that again. Oh, listen, folks, we are a blessed people. The sons of Noah came out of the boat, verse 18, with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. From these three sons of Noah came, here it is, all the people who now populate the earth. And we're in chapter 9, and can I just tell you that before we get to chapter 10, sin enters again already? I tell you folks, we've got a sinful nature, and it's a bad problem. Genesis 1 through 11 covers almost 2,000 years, as long a period as the rest of the Bible put together. Genesis 1 to 11 covers over 2,000 years. The rest of the Bible doesn't take that long. Genesis 12 through 50, which is the end of the book, covers about 350 years. Abraham was about 2100 BC. So this first covenant was with Noah, and the second one was with Abram. Okay, so Abraham was about 2100 BC. Do you see that it's kind of moving in increments of about 2,000 years? From here to here, from here to here, here to here, about 2,000 years. Folks, it's been 2,000 years. He's coming, and he's coming soon. But God warned the people of Noah's day, and there were few, if any, that hadn't heard about crazy old Noah. All the tour bus stopped, and they'd get off to stare at Noah. I mean, he drew a crowd because they thought he was crazy. But he preached the righteousness of God to them. So it was good that they thought he was crazy, because that drew the crowd. And then when the crowd grew, they had the word of God preached to them. They had the word of righteousness preached to them, and they were given an opportunity. You see, God didn't leave them without any hope. He gave them with a way, and he made it so. I don't want to use the word ridiculous, but a man building this huge boat in a desert and saying it's going to rain and never had rain before, of course they're going to think he's crazy. But it drew them to him. And because it drew, see, whatever God uses, it drew them to him. And then he preached righteousness to them and gave them the invitation to come in. And folks, God didn't cut them off with no way to be saved. He gave them a way. 120 years Noah preached righteousness. 120 years Noah said, come into the ark. Come into the boat with us and be safe. But to them it was foolishness. Maybe some thought, I might come back and listen to this later. Got a lot going on right now. I'm going to live my life right now. Maybe I'll come back and listen to what he's got to say later. Maybe there were some who thought my friends would think I was absolutely crazy if I got on that boat. And they would care more about what their friends thought than what God thought. See, there might have been some people, like, but they put it off. For whatever reason, they put it off. But whatever their excuse was, friends, they ran out of time. And people today are running out of time. And we as Christians need to share righteousness, even if they think we're crazy. We need to share the gospel. We need to reach out to people. Folks, they are running out of time. And if you're listening to this and you've not accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, you are running out of time. So whatever their excuse was, they ran out of time. And God closed the door. And they no longer had a choice. After you die, you'll no longer have a choice. When Jesus comes back and raptures us out of here, after that, there'll be people saved on the earth during the tribulation. But you'll have to go through that awful time. And the Bible says those who have heard the gospel and rejected it, they're probably not going to accept then either. Oh, listen, where are you going to spend eternity? When you were born, there was a part of you that's going to spend eternity somewhere. Every person that ever lived, there's a part of them that is still alive. Their soul, their spirit, they're somewhere right now. They're either with the Lord or they're absent from the Lord. But nobody is gone. Nobody. Hitler exists somewhere, his spirit, today. Folks, it doesn't make any difference who you are. The moment you were born, there was a part of you, a soul, that's going to spend eternity somewhere. And you get to choose where. Make a good choice. Choose heaven. Because one of these days, we're going to see Jesus face to face. What a day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, and I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace, when he takes me by the hand and leads me through that promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. Thank you.